It was Thursday, the day of the sit-down with the Knightsbridge partners. A dozen or so people were settling in at the enormous conference table in Max's office. They'd brought a fair-sized contingent all the way from England. Two senior guys, Jeremy Bostwick and Frank Eaton, did the talking. Bostwick was heavy, gruff, and rumpled. You could imagine him slurping sherry in some dim and dusty room at Oxford. Eaton was natty and lean, his starched collar the snuggest in the room. A cluster of underlings fed them charts and graphs from little portfolios that they kept tucked close to their bodies.
"Okay,"
Maxx said.
"What we're here to talk about today, talk about in strictest confidence, is an amazing business deal. But it's more than that. It's historic. This is going to top the news for weeks. It's going to be studied in business schools forever. It's going to be a touchstone case of taking a property that's already gold standard and bringing it to a whole new level."
I was hunkered down at the periphery, taking notes, trying to stay in the shadow of the plants. I watched Bostwick and Eaton. They were listening politely, but they seemed immune to the colonial hyperbole. Jeremy Bostwick tapped his Mont Blanc against a yellow pad and said,
"A level where it can still make money?" "Absolutely,"
said Maxx with a salesman's implacable certainty.
"Hand over fist. Forever."
"I wonder," said Frank Eaton. An assistant fed him a sheet of data.
"The occupancy at Rock Center is running 98%. Rents are already among the highest in the city. How much farther can you push it?"
It was a fair question, but Robert Maxx seemed to take it as a bit of an attack. He narrowed his eyes, which gave them that unfortunate, piggy look. But before he could speak, Arthur Levin cut in to smooth this first small ripple.
"Frank, Jeremy," he said, "with due respect, leave the management of the property to us. We're pretty good at that. What we want to discuss with you is the financing. We're offering you first position. It's a tremendous opportunity. You'll hold a nice chunk of the equity. With the strength of the pound, it's a bargain for you."
"And if the dollar keeps tanking," said Bostwick, "it'll get to be a bigger bargain still." "Could happen," Maxx acknowledged. "This is why they call it business. You can make money, you can lose money. If you don't have the balls—"
"Oh, Robert, please," said Frank Eaton. "Leave balls out of it for once. It's not about balls. It's about these rather fanciful projections you've put in place."
"There's nothing fanciful about them," said Maxx.
An assistant slipped Eaton another sheet of paper.
"For this deal to make sense, everything has to work just so," he said. "Occupancy has to rise. Retail has to stay strong so you can raise rents on the merchants. Is everything really that peachy?"
I confess that, in my naivety, I was thoroughly surprised at how the meeting was going. I had thought Maxx would dominate. I never expected to see him on the defensive. He was the famous one. He was the host. He sat at the head of the table and had the highest backed chair. But there was another factor that seemed to trump all this. Bostwick and Eaton had the money, and money talks. Money gets its way. Money, like DNA, puts its own stamp on whatever it touches and sees to its own interests. My billionaire was suddenly the supplicant, and it was becoming ever clearer that he didn't enjoy the role.
"Look," he said, "you guys are getting your bowels in an uproar about a few unimportant, anecdotal numbers, and you're missing the big picture."
"Which is?" asked Jeremy Bostwick with admirable terseness. Maxx took a moment to collect himself before he spoke again. He tugged at the lapels of his suit jacket, jutted out his too thick jaw. Then he said, softly and slowly,
"The value that I add. The value of my name."
There was a silence.